Well, good morning. How you doing today, Deanne?
I am doing great. Thanks so much, Keith. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to talk to you
Good.
this morning, this fine
Thanks.
sunny morning here.
Yeah.
I love to ask my guests this question to kind of get to know you a little bit better. What's the
Okay.
best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, best piece of advice I've ever received is everybody has a story. So listen
Mm,
to everybody. God put everybody on earth differently and unique, and take time to hear everybody's story. I think so.
that is very, very true. I like that. Good advice because it also makes sure that you don't lose track of the fact that everybody is unique and they're human. And if we
Absolutely.
lose sight of the fact that we're all human and we're all created by God with unique stories, we learn to appreciate not only ourselves, but also what God has done in and through people around us.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. So true. I love that about people, though. Everybody's so unique. Different backgrounds, different things that have shaped them, and part of it helps me do what I do, uh, to know that people are unique and valuable. So
Yes, definitely. I'm always curious for people like yourself. As we get up there in age, I know myself. I can think about people who have been important in my life. But who are some role models and mentors for you along your journey?
absolutely, my dad, um, he he's passed several years ago, but he was a pastor in mostly in rural churches in the South, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama. Anyway, I talk about him quite a bit because he is the guy um, who helped me see the value of people as a pastor. As his daughter, I tag along with him sometime and watched him do what he did to help people, and then as well as what he preached in the pulpit and all that sort of thing. But he was the real deal. He was the guy. He was the same guy in the pulpit as he was helping somebody with a funeral or with a wedding or whatever. He was just the same and consistent and kind and compassionate, caring. He was my hero.
I love that. You
Mm.
never know sometimes how important you are as a father and a parent in your kids' lives, and when your kids can rem- think about you as having such a great impact, this kind of validates all the hard work and all the sometimes sleepless nights you have as a parent with when you're
So
raising
true.
kids.
So true. Yes.
So tell us your personal story. It's always interesting. You talk about a lot of unseen people, but tell us your particular story.
Well, as I said, I was a pastor's daughter, and so I and my mom played a big role in all of this too, because she was not only a wonderful pastor's wife, but she also would host like mission meetings for women in our home. And so I'd listen into those stories as she would host them in our home, and then pair that up with what my dad was doing. And that just kind of shaped me as a young child to understand our place in the world, and that we all have a job to do. And they gave me opportunity to explore different what is my talents and skills were, help me go on to school and that sort of thing, college, and get my degrees in communication. And though they were just so supportive in doing all that for me and for my brother and my sister. Um, but I learned kind of early on that I was a little different. I didn't know that my place was was to stay in South Arkansas. I kind of had a vision of the bigger part of the world, and I wanted to be a place in that. And so I felt a calling to kind of go into all the world and see people and help them with their needs. I wanted to be a traveling journalist where I could gather all that information and then report it back home. So I felt a calling, probably late in my teenage years, to go and do that sort of thing. So I got myself ready to go, and I did that. I felt like my calling was going to be a international missionary, is what I thought. And but met my husband in seminary, and things quickly changed when children came along, and I found myself in all places in Southwest Oklahoma. I thought, what in the world? This is not an international mission field by far. But then I remembered that where I am is where God put me is my mission field, and so I started writing, and my words would go out in different publications of all kinds. And that's how I started feeling like this was what I was supposed to do with my words. I also spent some time in a church doing some minister of missions work, traveling internationally. I learned how to do that well and take people with me. And then I worked for an international nonprofit, anti-trafficking, anti-abuse for women and girls, did that for a lot of years. And so my calling took different shapes in different seasons of life. And now in this season, I'm kind of bringing that all together into book form. So that's what I do, and that's where I'm at.
That's amazing. You speak about your book. I'm always
Mm-hmm.
curious as a writer myself, what influenced you to be a writer?
That's a good question. My mom, once again, back to my roots, and one of the stories I share in this book is about I was the youngest of three, and when my brother and sister would go off to school, I remember sitting in my mom's lap with a Dr. Seuss book or another book, and she would read that book to me over and over and over, and it ingrained in me the love for reading early on, and as I learned that I could write, writers should be good readers because that gives you a understanding of how other people write and different views of the world and how that affects you. So I think that helped me more than anything, is to have that foundation in reading. And both my brother and sister to this day are voracious readers. We just can't get enough of it. So I think that was probably it. Just being a reader and how that has affected my own words. So I think that's it.
I noticed from your bio that you seem to be passionate about justice issues.
Mm-hmm.
What was the foundation for that passion? Because we all have certain things that either we see the brokenness and it's just like our God puts it on our heart to say, I want you to go work in that field. What drives your passion for justice?
Another good question, making me think. Well, I like I say, I feel like that I was maybe born differently, to not just to sit and be comfortable. But as I grew up reading scripture, and to see that God cares for all people and made them in his image, all people. And so growing up in the American South in the 1960s, it was a volatile time. And I don't necessarily remember all the issues that went on, but I remember growing up in church thinking, I'm not sure we're treating all people equally here in our own country, much less around the world. And I remember just looking at different issues around me as a child and thinking, why are we not treating people the same and sharing life and light with all peoples, not just around the world, but locally. My heart was to go international, but the problems of our country tugged on me and continued to tug on me about treating people with kindness and compassion. That's just this is part of who I am as a person, that God made me, wired that into me. And I feel like we need to have those eyes to see people and the struggles that they have. Not that we can solve all their issues, we cannot, but I do feel like we need to have opportunity through churches, through nonprofits, through all kinds of ways, and individually even, to help set things right for people and give them an opportunity to be seen and to be heard. Sometimes they need a mouthpiece. That was true in my work with the anti-trafficking nonprofit I was in women around the world who were being trafficked didn't have a voice. They couldn't be heard. And so in the place where God had put me, I got to be that person for them. And that's just one situation. There's so many others, opportunities of people that we can walk alongside and help to be seen and heard.
That's great. I notice you have a weekly Substack newsletter called A
I
Good
do.
Word Wednesday. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
So this is my opportunity to keep my writing skills sharp weekly. And as I was thinking about how I wanted to get my words out into the world, I've had a blog for many years, and it was on another platform. But when Substack came along, I thought this probably was an easier fit for me. And so I repurposed what I had done and retitled it to concentrate on one good word per week. And so that gives me an opportunity to keep, not only keep my writing fresh, but to keep my spiritual hearing fresh, to see what that good word's going to be every week. Sometimes I pick that up in my reading, or sometimes it's just something that's on my heart that situations have brought to the forefront. Sometimes it's in church. It just depends. And then I develop that word through the week and start thinking about it and how I want to share that through my personal experiences, as well as what I'm learning in scripture and through reading, and share that with people. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy that. I'd say it keeps my writing sharp, but it also, my readers can stay up to date on the progress of the book too. So that's part of it as well.
Nice segue into your new book. So tell us about your new book, The Unseen People.
Thank you. Yes, I've been a writer for a lot of years, and this is really my first. I've contributed to some other books, but this is my first book of my own. So to me, it's a compilation of lots of things through the years. I wanted to be able to share what God had been doing in my life through the years, and all these different places that I've already shared with you through my grown-up years, through working in a church, through nonprofit, through being a writer, all those things. And I had already written about a lot of that in my previous blog. And so I started reading through these things, and I thought, this has got a common thread through it. And it is about where God had put me in different places in the world to be able to see people that aren't normally seen, or that we just overlook, or not all my stories were about that, but a lot of them were. So I started pulling things together and rewrote some new stuff, but the thread was all the way through about seeing people that are normally overlooked. And so I started putting that together and found publisher, Ambassador International, that took me on as a newbie author, and have helped me shape this into the book form that it is. The interesting thing about all this is, as I was writing, I thought it was going to be a book about international opportunities. And what happened was, as I was reading what I had already done and some new things that I had been writing for Good Words, some of those things, I thought, there are unseen people right next door to me, as well as around the world. And it's not an either or, it's a both and. And so a lot of people will never travel around the world, but they have next door neighbors. And so I had opportunity to share some of the stories that I had already experienced and put them into this book form. So my purpose in all of this is to encourage readers to see through some of my own experiences and start thinking about their own, where they are placed in the world today, and how they can be on a personal mission to see unseen people, to see them, develop a relationship with them, give them a voice if they need it, and to share the love of Christ with them. That's the purpose of this book. And it's been definitely a long labor of love, and ready to launch it out into the world for sure.
In your experience, why is it you think people struggle to see other people?
I think it's a multi-layered answer to that, but the main thing is Well, we're busy people, for one thing. We get in our cars and we go check off things off of our list. And not that those things are bad things. A lot of them are probably good, but we just have an overcrowded schedule. And so we just tend to forget about other people that come in and out of our lives. I'm a believer in starting the day with, God, help me to see people that you put in my path today, because I think they're already there. Sometimes it's our eyes that need to be open to see them. But I think another part of the answer to that question is um, we can hide behind our computers. We can hide behind our phones. And we've lived in such a world, and COVID had something to do with that. The issue was already there, but it made it more common experience for everybody to hide behind their doors or their computers or wherever they were. And so to have that personal connection with people, I think we're having to relearn that in the post-COVID years about how to connect with people. I'll say a lot of my stuff was already in process before COVID came along, but it's like, oh wow, here we are trying to learn to connect with people again. And I think we're making a lot of progress. It's been, a few years in the making with all of that, but it's something we need to always keep in the forefront about. It's not just about us. I mean, we all tend to be taking care of me, mine, and ours. And we do have responsibility to our own families for sure, but we also need to be caring for people just right outside our doors. And the people that we read about in the headlines, we have a responsibility for them too. And it's our job to be able to see. Sometimes the danger in that, though, Keith, is that we get overwhelmed. There's just so much. You can't do it all. There's no way to do it all. And so part of the process personally is to learn who it is you need to see, how it is you can help, and to do that thing. Maybe just one thing a day, one thing a week. At least it's something to help people to be seen. We all like that. And one of my stories is about just using people's names. We like to be seen and heard. And I challenge people to, like, if you're going out to eat or if you're at the grocery store or whatever, whoever your server is or whoever it is that's helping you, sometimes they have a name tag, sometimes they don't. You just have to ask them, what's your name? I have a terrible memory. I have to write it down to help me remember somebody's name, because we like the sound of our own name. That makes us unique. That's who we are. And it gives us a personal connection. I am by nature an introvert, way off far on the scale of being an introvert. So it's hard for me sometimes to break out of my comfort zone and get connected with one other person. But I'm doing that in this season of my life. I think it's important to just not get comfortable with what it is that I do day in and day out, but to step over the line and connect with another human being just by asking their name. So that was a long
Something you
answer to your
said,
questions.
no, it's good. But something you
Yeah.
said stuck out to me, because I remember hearing another pastor talk about, he would pray every day, Lord, send someone into my life that I can witness the gospel, share the gospel with.
Yeah.
And he's like, he never had a single day when it happened. I'm thinking, when you prayed that prayer, Lord, help me see people,
Yeah.
that it's one of those prayers, I was kind of a dangerous prayer, because it does mean all of a sudden now I have to be compassionate, and I'm going to see these people that I probably didn't see before.
Yeah.
And how do I make sure that not only do I see them, but something else that's important, that I make space in my time for them, not just to say, oh, I noticed that you're there, but how do I then begin to make space in my time to make an impact in their life as well?
Absolutely. That's, it is a dangerous prayer. And don't pray it until you're ready to be serious about it, because he will make you very uncomfortable. Sometimes it's like, you've prayed that prayer, put somebody in my path that needs to be seen today, God, is what I pray. And a lot of times I don't even have to go outside my my neighborhood, but on my daily walks, I can do that. I can be praying for those people in those houses, and he'll bring other people out along to talk, and he's done that multiple times. But it's that being ready for it, It's like, uh-oh, this is the answer to my prayer. Now what do I do? So I think early in your day, whenever that is, to personally, if you're a person of prayer, then to do that, to pray to God to help you know what to say. And sometimes it's not so much your words, it's your ears, it's your listening. People just want to. I had a neighbor not too long ago whose husband had cancer. I had no idea. And she started just telling me all this stuff. And this was just out on my daily walk. And we just happened to connect at her mailbox one morning. And she didn't need me to, I couldn't fix her problem. There's really not much I could do, but she needs somebody to listen. And so sometimes that's what it is. And then follow up again with that when God gives you another opportunity, and to remember, let them know that you remember about them, that you're thinking about them. Is there anything that you could do to help them specifically? Asking those questions. But yeah, you got to be ready to follow through on what you're asking for. And the we have to start is making it a priority. Is this important to you to connect with other people? You may not be ready for that yet, but that's okay. But the time will come when you're gonna want somebody to listen to you. So you need to be that person first to connect with somebody else, and just make this a little bit more of a human experience for everybody around the world. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody you already know. Most likely it's not going to be. But that gives you opportunity to forge a new friendship with someone. So
That's awesome.
that's my encouragement to myself daily, as well as to others who read this book. So I hope that's what will happen.
Yeah, me too. Thinking about the people in your book, the unseen
Mm-hmm.
people, is there a story in that book or a person you met that just really stands out of
Mm-hmm.
how they impacted you from your writing about them?
Yeah. And, I didn't have to go far. I've thought about this question before, and there's a lot, and there a lot of people, but one of them is he was just right next door to me. And this was years ago, but a single man who had a divorced guy whose family didn't live in town, but we shared a fence. We shared our driveways were right next to each other in our neighborhood. So I didn't know him well, but I knew his name. And one day our dogs were barking at each other, and he'd gotten a new puppy, and we got connected over this dog. And he would come by every so often, let us know he was traveling with his work out of town, keep an eye on his house, that sort of thing. So not a deep relationship, but just neighbors. And one day I was going out to my car, and he was there, and he had a big patch over his eye. And I was asking him if he was okay, and he said he had to have surgery and on his eye. And he was about to drive to Oklahoma City, and he have another surgery. And I didn't think much more about it, but a few days later, a week or so later, I saw his obituary in our local newspaper. And I thought, oh my goodness, I had no idea it was that serious of an incident. I think all that to say, it challenged me to not take it for granted, to not take those relationships that are either nearby or far away for granted. I just expected him to be out there the next day, off on a trip, or tell me about his dog or about his grandkids that live nearby. But then he wasn't there anymore. So I don't know that what else I could have done, but the relationship could have gone deeper. Invited him over to our house, to my husband and I, to host him for dinner, just to ask the question more often, what it is like we could do to help him engage in conversation more, that sort of thing. The message to me was, life is short. We all know that. So don't forget to take advantage of opportunities and relationships when you have an opportunity to do that.
That's a really impactful story. Yeah, because there are a lot of people sometimes you don't notice until it's too late. And you think about, wow, I would have wished I had taken more time to
Right.
see that person more, interact that person more. And sometimes you'll discover at the funeral how deep and impactful their life was
Yeah,
from just
yeah.
the ceremonies of the celebration of their life.
Right. Yeah, I do that sometimes. I read those obituaries just to see what it is. Who are these people? And because it makes you think about your legacy. What is it going to say when it comes my time? And what are people going to think? And so our time is right now to be the shapers of the legacy that we leave. And, part of that I want to hand off to my children and grandchildren is that I was a person who cared about others, who listened to others, who loved the way that God would have me love, and to see people the way that Jesus does. I have an idea for another book. I don't know if I'm going to do one, but you're getting the scoop on this. Is if I do another one, it will be Unseen People of the Bible, and part of that is the
Mm.
way that God sees people. Like I don't know if you there's lots of examples like Hagar. He'd seen her; she was an outcast and a woman at that, and he saw her, and she proclaimed that he is the God who sees. In the New Testament, there's so many stories about Jesus looking up at the tree and seeing Zacchaeus. Who would have thought Zacchaeus would have been up there? Or all the women who were outcast and that sort of thing. So there's lots of examples in Scripture about seeing the unseen, and that will be this book that's coming out soon. Is definitely a lot of my stories, but there's so many other stories to tell through Scriptures, and then maybe even later on another one about unseen people today. There's so many uh, groups of people in our country and around the world who need a voice and need to be seen. So it's just endless about how to leave an impact in the world today and to make a difference. You can't change it all, but you can learn somebody's name today. You can do something.
Yeah, that's really great. That's an interesting thing too. I didn't think about those unseen people of the Bible and the role they play. How
Yeah,
important that
yeah,
part of the story is to the salvation story.
absolutely, absolutely. Jesus just had a way of making people feel like they were important. You think Matthew, the tax collector, nobody liked him. Jesus saw him and saw his potential. I think my problem with this next one would be, well, goodness, there's so many stories of that. How do you narrow it down? Um, but just to learn and see through the eyes of Jesus who the people are, it makes you feel so important. Everybody is equally valuable to um, to him, and that's the lesson to learn, that we're no more important than anybody else. He just puts us in a different place in a different time with different opportunities, and learning how to seize the moment and take advantage of those opportunities is, I guess, my encouragement to all of us.
Even to do unseen people of the Old Testament and then New Testament to kind of divide it up.
Yeah, I guess. I guess so. I don't know. Or group some of them together. I don't know. That's the part I hadn't thought. I've got to get this book out into the world first,
Right.
and then think about that one a little more thoroughly. But it is turning in my head a little bit as we're talking about it. So uh, that'll be a journey to get through that. I'll let you know if it happens. So,
Yeah, let me know. You'll come back on and talk about it.
sure, absolutely.
So, what are you excited about in this season of your life?
Oh, well, I always remember people saying that having grandkids is better than having your own kids. And my husband and I are starting. We have 5 grandchildren now, so that part of life is just fun to watch my children raise their children, and having to breathe into that process with them is just icing on the cake after raising your own family and being involved in the lives of your children. We love that. My husband's just recently retired, so he's given me this opportunity to do my writing as he's been retired. It's a totally different season. Um, it's a good one though, and it's good to have that freedom to go and do some things and or stay at home. They say, like, I'm such an introvert. I'm fine staying at home. Um, but we both have traveled extensively in our own, my husband and I, in our own separate work through the years. So traveling is not an allure like it used to be, but maybe a few things here and there. But just being settled in our community, in our church, and with our family, it's a wonderful season of life that we're in that's given me space to write and to share my words. So I'm grateful for that.
That's amazing. As we kind of wrap things up from our conversation today, what takeaways do you want the audience to gain from our conversation?
Well, obviously I want them to get access to this book, and it's already up on Amazon for pre-order as we speak. But there's that, and I would love to connect with them with my Substack newsletter every week. Just to, there's so much stuff that comes in your inbox every day, and I don't want to be another thing. But I do think it's but I do think it's an opportunity to forge a new friendship with people. So I would love for that to happen. But I think the main thing from this conversation is, whether you read the book or not, is to find opportunity sometime very soon to look at people through new lenses, to be able to see people that you might have just overlooked on a daily basis, and to reach out, to listen, to learn a name, and just help them know that they are seen. There was one opportunity in a local restaurant that I frequent with my discipleship group, and there was a lady that saw us reading our Bibles, and she'd see us praying together. And one day she was watching us, and the two young ladies had already left, and it was just me sitting at the table. And she approached me and she said, I see you praying. She said, can you pray for me about something? And so she gave me a very detailed bit of information. And so I thought, this wasn't just an opportunity for her to serve me. This was an opportunity for us to bond as human beings, as women, sharing a very difficult situation in her life, and she could trust me with this. So, it's not something that she might have just trusted me automatically and for the first time, but she saw us repeatedly being those people. So I think it's important for you to be the kind of person that's approachable, to not always be so busy with your list, to take time to breathe, enjoy the moment, and look around and see the people around you. That's my encouragement from this conversation as well as from my book. So thank you for asking that question, Keith. I appreciate that.
That's great. I guess what I took away from it was, it made me think about this, and maybe it's my next book, is praying dangerous prayers. Because what you just talked about just made me think of that. Do
Yeah.
you have the courage to pray dangerous prayers? And what I mean by dangerous prayers are those prayers where you either see people, or you put yourself out there where you're looking for opportunities to share the gospel with people, or you're looking for ways to make impact every day. To me, those are the kind of prayers that are in line with God's heart, but they also push us outside of our comfort zone. So that idea of, are we willing to make space in our life to be used by God for the way God created us to be, to me is an interesting thing from our conversation today as well.
I remember in the book of Isaiah, when he says, "Here am I, send me," that was a prayer. That was an offering that's a bold, dangerous prayer. Where are you willing to go? And it has to be open ending. If you say, "I'm willing to go, I'm willing to be used, I'm willing to see unseen people," get ready, because you'll be used by him to do that. So.
Right. So be careful what you pray for.
Yeah. But it's exciting, it's dangerous, but it's also, it's a life that you wouldn't trade for anything else, because you're willing to be used and go and just say, whatever you send my way, God, the answer is yes. So I'll go do that.
Yeah.
But you got to be ready.
So where can people find your book, The Unseen People, again, and where can they learn more about you, your website?
Yeah, DeAnnaSanders.com. And I've got all the information on there. There's a page about the book particularly. There's a contact page. There's some freebies that I give away to get the good stuff. There's that page. So there's just come to DeAnnaSanders.com and you can connect with me there. I'd love that very much.
Well, thank you so much for being on. Blessings on your book, and let me
Thank
know
you.
of how it comes out, how I can assist to make sure we get it out there to everybody.
I would let you know for sure. I'm excited to hold it in my hands. So I'll share that with you for sure. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much.